Hey, Jess. No, I don't want the check. Bring another round.
Do you have any heroin? You have any? I got more needles.
I need counseling now.
Hey everybody, how you doing? My name is Brad Sanders.
Ready. Ha ha, very funny motherfucker. And now, ladies and gentlemen,
Hey, what's up, everybody out there? This is This Comedy Life. This is the program where we kick the game around with comedians about being comedians, how they got to be comedians, whatever it is that they have done on this road with mic in hand, trudging the happy destiny of making people laugh. Tonight, our guest is Mr. Brandon Bowlin, one of the most talented people in the world. And he was one of the key players on It's Your World. Brandon, how you doing, bro?
What's up? Is the introduction over? Because
that was it.
That was like the half the show.
All you did.
You did a 1950s, and from the depths of the area that we're going to see. I was waiting for trains to come through, planes, trains, and automobiles, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. Planes, trains, and television sets.
Where did we first meet? Do you know when we first met?
I cannot really say when we first met. I had to be at some comedy club somewhere.
I remember when we first spoke, I was struggling on Pico. You came in and you said, hey, man.
You talking about the dark room on Pico, your comedy club.
I was struggling in my club. And you invited me to the It's Your World thing that you guys were doing
in Burbank.
On Cahuenga. You gave me a good set. I do remember that because you're like, hey man, good set. And you got, if anybody that knows you, they know your voice. I said, Brad, hey man, good set.
Good set, man. Hey, man,
that was dope. And that was all. That was the first time we met. It might have been at the townhouse. But yeah, that was the first time. That was the only thing that we said the first time. And then later on, you came up and I was losing money and, and drowning and all that. Yeah, I used to own this club called the Dark Room, and it became the Comedy Union. Before that, it was the Mixed Nuts, and then it was the Comedy Union, and then Mixed Nuts moved to an old stripper lounge up on Washington. That's what they used to call them back in the day.
Call it These Nuts. I couldn't resist. I held off as long.
I know. They don't need saying that, and then not and thinking you're not gonna get a response.
What made you want to be a comedian?
I used comedy as kind of a shield most of my life. I had two older brothers. I was the third one, and there were things that went down growing up. And I just, in order to be personable, and I had this really wild imagination because I played mostly by myself. My middle brother is 3 years older than me, and my oldest brother was 7 years older than me. Mm-hmm. So it'd just be basically me and the dog in the hills, in the suburbs of wonderful downtown Pasadena. And, you develop this way of looking at the world. And comics they're very receptive of the world around them. Every comic you've ever known is very particular about how they bring in information, and they do it right away, and they make snap judgments right away. That's part of our deal. And that's when I had that innate. I had been, we practiced comedy before we actually started doing comedy in our lives. And then when I started doing comedy was actually the first time was in college. And I went up, the very first time was at your spot, a place that you had been to back in the day called the Comedy Store. Yeah, when I really started doing it regularly was in college. And actually, we didn't have rooms at USC. The guy who was doing a room was at UCLA. Mm-hmm. And I started up and doing in his room at UCLA, a guy by the name of Chris Spencer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and that's where I started. And then the first time I went on stage, I went to the sign up at the Comedy Store. And let me tell y'all something. If you ain't never done this before, the sign up is like
this is an open mic night.
It's open mic, but it's different.
You might get on, and then again, you probably won't. But
exactly. The Comedy Store, the open mic night was a crackhead's cattle call because there would be people on that line. You could just look at them and be, bruh, you should not be doing comedy tonight. You should be going to the emergency because, you're bleeding. You have no shoes on.
And get you some shoes. That's what I was about to suggest. Get you some shoes.
Yeah.
Because people are going to be paying more attention to your feet than your fabulous clothes.
And you're not going to get on because they have health codes. So that's and it was, I mean, that Comedy Store was this, it was legendary. It was a factory, and it was still making comics. It was still one of the places that you had to be a part of. And I quickly disabused myself of becoming a regular there. But the very first time I went up was in my senior year. And I thought I went, people don't know this, understand. When you go do that catapult.
At this time, were you at USC or where were you?
No, I was in high school. I had just graduated. Yeah. And you think I'm gonna do some comedy. So you go put on, by then we were still wearing jackets.
You put on those big shoes and you had the little horn.
the guy, the clown shoes. Nah, then dig this. When I started comedy, now you remember this, we were still wearing jackets.
Yeah.
We weren't wearing suits. We were wearing suit coats with the big old.
Well, see, by the time I came to the Comedy Store, I was out of the coats. But yeah, I got pictures around the house with me in them suits, man.
Yeah, we weren't wearing suits. We were wearing, because we were the New Jack Swing. So we were.
Not the shoulder pads.
Yeah, shoulder pad. That's why I went like this. That's what. And I pulled up my cuffs. I'm like, I'm about to rock Hollywood in 3 minutes. Yeah. I'm gonna tear this motherfucker down.
Go ahead.
They went through they got the list. You signed up, and and then you tell your friends, man, come on, I'm coming up to watch. I'm number 6 on the list. So you better get here. Oh, and then
you had a spot.
I had a spot, right? But you don't know that, like I said, it's a cattle call. So I'm 6 on the list, but then all the regulars show up.
Oh,
well. And then some of the other cats, people who stars, TV stars, and people who just wanted to get out and they're in town for saying, then they show up. So number 6 on the list ended up going dead last. Oh. When I was on stage, this is what I call waitress chamber music. You could hear the waitresses picking up the glass and tinkling them. They were picking up the glasses off the tables, and you would hear the tink, tink, tink.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Tink, 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 tink. And you ever get on a bus and there's no seats left? Tink, 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 tink. I thought I was gonna blow the man. It wasn't humiliating. It was humbling, but absolutely nothing's gonna stop me to get back up there and to prove. And I can tell you the cats that went, and some of us are still friends to this day. And I've told them, I see you guys were there when I first started. Years later, I'm up there. You just become part of the scene. Even though I never became a regular, I used to do the belly room, or I'd come up there and we would watch Paul Mooney clear out on I think it was a Wednesday, or it wasn't a Wednesday. It was a Thursday, I think. And he would just clear out the main room. He'd be the last comic on it.
When you mentioned that you went on dead last, I said, oh, what came to my mind was, oh, you were doing the Mooney spot.
Yeah. Well, remember and I should have said this earlier. The open mic was done in the original room. That's the room when you walk by the Comedy Store, you can actually see people on stage in the window. That was the room the open mic was, and it wasn't in the main room. Mooney used to go in the main room, and we would sit there and watch him work. And the thing about Mooney was he wasn't always funny, nor was he always coherent. He would do whatever was coming to his mind, but it would be like topical stuff. Mm-hmm. The thing is that he'd be on for like 40 minutes.
See, that's why they put him on last. And that's why it was the Mooney spot, because he cleared the room talking about any and everything that came to his mind. Yeah. Oh, the niggers. Let me just tell you about those.
And the white people are sitting down there and get this black man on stage.
He's going to stab us. Oh.
But the thing is, out of that 40 minutes, every time we saw him, he would have a minute, 2 minutes of gold. Just absolutely. The most important thing I think you pull from watching that is not necessarily what you think is confidence. It's being comfortable. That's the most, when you understand it, because he actually had a blanket. A blanket is something, this is early on, I was talking to old comics and I had these definitions that they gave me. A blanket is something that you use that kind of is part of your character, but actually gives you roots on stage. For some people,
Is that anything like your whoopee?
like what?
Your whoopee, like a little baby has their blanket, and it's their whoopee. It makes them, or that thunder coat for the dogs when it's thundering and raining out.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. It's something that helps. It's like it's a prop, really. He would have a glass of brandy.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying? And then he would work it while he was talking. You could see it. You could see
Oh,
other people
that's old school right there.
Yeah. Other people would do a cigar, and they'd never smoked the motherfucker. And then other people would do a cigarette.
Many comics would time themselves.
Exactly. So people need to know that what you're looking at, you're not just the person's not just smoking. I mean, a lot of times they did, but it wasn't just that. They'd smoke a cigarette. It was part of something to do with their hands. Like I rock the mic stand sometimes. I said, put my hand on the mic stand and rock the mic stand. That's something. But because I do a lot of different characters, everything becomes a moment or a prop or whatever. That wasn't Mooney. Mooney would sit on a stool and he'd have his blanket. When he'd sit there and he'd hold it a certain way and he'd tell jokes and then he'd lean in, and you'd get the position that this dude is holding court. Right. And that was part of his comfort. So these are things that you learn. It takes years to really kind of get it.
I'm reading a book called Becoming Richard Pryor. Mooney is all through that joint.
Right.
All through it. And because he was close friends with Richard, and there's some interesting stories in that book.
Yes, there are. I read it. Richard Pryor goes in that book, and there's another one too, Black and Blue, I think it is. He goes into his sexuality, and he talks about his grandmother, who was a madam, and his mama. Mm-hmm. And he talks about rooming with Paul, and I think his sister. There's an involvement there. And then Paul's section, he used to have a joke. And I know you've seen it, so we can talk about it because it's out there. You can go on YouTube and you can see there was a show called The Richard Pryor Show. Mm-hmm. And when it wasn't renewed, they just did a roast. Now, the roast was never supposed to be seen because it was a roast. And they told the filthiest shit. Yeah. And Richard Pryor said, because Paul Mooney was hosting.
Yeah.
So everybody. Oh, you were there?
I did the Richard Pryor show. I did sketches.
Oh, okay. So yeah. And his twins were on the show at some point. They did a spot. Robin Williams, Sarah Bernhardt,
Marsha Warfield, Robert Lord, Mitch Walters, Jimmy Martinez.
All those people that you mentioned, they all were at the roast, and so they were killing him. And then at the end, he gets up.
Yeah, he does.
And he gets up
and he's from here, Brandon.
And he said, well, because Mooney was hosting.
Yeah.
Richard Pryor gets on. He says,
Paul was with me once when I first fucked my first faggot. And he's been holding that over my head for 2 years. I fucked a faggot. I just want to say it now so nobody else can tell. I liked it. I would have married him, but he had to go away and get an operation.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. Hello.
But that's what it was.
Waitress? No, I don't want the check. Bring another round.
Do you have any heroin? You have any? I got more needles.
I need counseling now.
Yeah. So, I mean, he often said that, though. I think he said something else to that effect, too. The thing about Richard Pryor in those days, they had so much more freedom. You guys had so much more freedom because of what the country had been through. And the country needed a breath. And you guys were in your time. The rage was still there. I was trying to tell somebody the 70s was still wild as far as politics. And they were hijacking planes and kidnapping folks and all this crazy stuff. But the cultural side of it opened wide up. And then all of the things that were said on the other sides of fences became part of the lexicon to talk to each other. So people could call each other the names that they would just use in their own private And that opened up a lot for you guys. But it took your generation to open up the Comedy Store to be that. The Comedy Store got great because of what you guys did. And I'm not trying to.
I understand, but whenever when I start thinking about generations, I think of what we owe to so many comics that came before us, man. I sat down with comics in the bathroom.
Yeah.
And they just give, dude, Dick Gregory. and I had that kind of conversation.
Yeah.
And just looking at all these people and Red Fox and all these, so they did so much. And if you had those party records, they used to call them.
Yep.
You talking about opening up.
Yep.
I want to get back to what kind of turned the corner for you as far as doing comedy, because you had a very interesting career on stage and
yeah.
movies.
Well, I was doing it in college, and you do the college rooms, and then you start going out a little bit. But the problem that I was doing, I couldn't devote a good chunk of it. I had to go to school, and I was playing football. It was kind of a lot of time that you had to devote to those things. And then my senior year is when I really got into doing most of the drama. I did a couple of movies with John Singleton because he was in college at the same time I was. But that was later on in college. I was trying to devote myself to stand-up throughout, but it's just difficult. When I was playing football, when I lacked in speed, I made up with the fact that I had absolutely no catching ability. So there was this, there was this line in there. Yeah, but I had to work extra hard. Like every practice for me was like a 90% thing, because these are some of the best athletes in the nation.
You got 2 bowl rings, don't you?
Yeah, but I was a top cat in San Gabriel Valley for LA Times, but I wasn't a national pick. So I walked on, and then I started playing my redshirt freshman year, which would have been my academic sophomore year. And so once you devote that much time to stuff, it's just difficult. So into my senior year, I started to go out and do the rooms. I started to do the rooms. Now I tell people, I think, in my opinion, and with the type of comedy that we used to do, it takes about 5 years to really get up under you. Okay, yeah, you're telling jokes, but first you have to learn about the craft, how to be funny. You have to learn it. And then you have to know what a callback is, and you have to know what a premise, set, a punchline. You have to know these things, so then you start practicing the way you want to articulate it, exactly. Right?
Yeah.
Then
your own flavor.
Yeah. Then you have to know how you're funny and how you write for yourself. You dig what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Then things start to combine, and you can actually work on being funny, because the work that you do isn't really about the nights you just go up there and say boo and they're just on the floor. It's for the nights where you actually have to work.
Yeah.
Nights where you actually have to
work.
Yeah. You have to know what working a room means. So when someone tells you, man, you side in the room, man, you need to get in the middle of the side in the room is when, if you start just working one side that's laughing and you're not.
Yeah, those other people don't exist, because they're not giving me my gratification right now. I need my hit.
And if your partner says, man, you only working one side, you have to know what that means. Especially if you're doing 2 shows at a club. If your partner says, hey, man, you only work the left side of the room, you got to know what the hell they're talking about, because you'll get fired. You'll lose that weekend spot, especially if you're not the headliner. They'll be like, yeah, we got 4 other people who know how to work a room.
And there's nothing lower than getting fired from a free gig.
Whew.
Getting fired from a gig from which you were not being paid.
You weren't being paid. Weren't even getting gas money.
You are scraping.
Here's what happened. I was doing stand-up then my senior year, as I was finishing up at USC, I started to take drama courses at a place called the Ivar Theater.
Yeah, I remember the Ivar.
Yeah, and so I was there. I did a year program, and then I also started working on Shakespeare there. And I did this thing called the Ira Aldridge Shakespeare competition, and I won a scholarship. So by the time I left USC, I already knew, by the time there was graduation day, from USC, I already knew I was going to study in England. So I was gonna study in England for a year.
To the Royal Shakespearean Academy.
No, the shade was
theater. Up theater. Don't shun yourself. Of theater. Royal Shakespeare in London, England.
I did, yeah, London, England. There's a movie called Shakespeare in Love, and they open at this theater, and that's the place I studied at that theater they opened into. So
all of this goes into comedy, so you could be on Pico.
Hey, that a bitch
doing comedy. He studied at the Royal Academy. The Royal.
But dig it, okay. So you know how we are. Comedians are some of the most entrepreneurial people you've ever met in your life.
You have to be.
I go over there on a student, right? I go over there on a student visa, and at the time they had this guy named Lenny Henry, who was just burning up. I mean, he was supposed to be the next the second guy. He was supposed to be their Richard Pryor.
Is this in London?
This is in London.
This is in London. Okay.
And he came out of this place called Hackney Empire, or as they say, Hackney Empire, over in Brixton. You know what I mean? They talk like this. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
I went over there and I started working some rooms, which was illegal. But I'm like, I do Shakespeare in the day, and then I started hanging out, and I did the whole thing, man. We're doing the Shakespeare stuff. I fall in love.
Now that leads me to a part of the program that I call the other side of the mic. The other side of the mic, the spouses and significant others.
Oh, okay.
And how they impacted you as a comedian.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, we're going to have them come on and talk about.
Shit.
Let them express what it's like to be with a comedian.
Broke. Everything we always broke, and he always thinks shit is funny.
Yeah. Oh yeah. When I first got married, I had already been doing comedy for about 4 years,
mm-hmm.
and my wife wanted me to explain show business to her. Mm-hmm. She said, "Does it mean that I go to work every day and I bring home a paycheck while you sit home and write jokes? Well, you're not funny.
You're not.
You ain't making me laugh.
You ain't funny.
You
tell that story, and I laugh my ass off because
I took it personally.
People have to know your wife. They have to know that for her to look at you, and you can see her probably bobbing. You're not funny, Brad.
You're not making me laugh. I won't say you ain't funny, but you are not funny to me.
It's hard to explain. Every person you see, every presenter, every night show host, late night host, they all have writers. They all have people. They're not just up there winging it. They're people that write that. You'd be like, well, why don't you get one of those jobs?
Yeah.
Why don't you apply for one of those jobs? Because you're not funny. One of the things that you don't see a lot of comics do from, like I said, our era, because I think things have changed in a way that is different when you do stand-up. One of the, you didn't see this, men or women. You didn't see a lot of people bringing their significant others with them. No. And there's a couple of reasons for that. It ain't just playing around. We're our own. What'd you say?
I never did. It was much, much later in the game before my wife came to one of my shows.
Hey, you have to, it's hard to explain, but it's like a tribe thing. You dig, and you're coming in, and I don't know if people got to put on their own masks or whatever, but it's a specific thing. Also, it looks to anybody else that you're in a circle of comics just bullshitting and laughing and giggling. And we are, but we're also doing business. You're finding out where the gigs are. You're finding out who's hiring. You're finding out who got a room. All these things, they're part of the tribe. Somebody outside of that ain't going to get it. No. And then if they're your significant other and they're standing there, they might get drawn into the crowd in a way they may not appreciate.
Yeah.
So that's the trip, though. It's hard. It's really, when you look around, you don't see a bunch of comics walking in with their significant others or hanging out with.
Nah.
Why do you think that is?
Well, because they don't relate to the whole mental process of that whole environment. They're not comfortable in that environment. That's not their environment, to bring it right down to it. I talked to Tom Dreesen a lot, and we go all the way back.
Yeah, you used to work with Tom, didn't you?
Oh yeah. Well, Tom Dreesen started the first comedy club in Chicago.
Oh, okay.
He went into a room, into the Ye Little Club, not the Ye Little Club, but he went into a room and said, "Look, you're dark. You ain't making any money on Monday night. Give me the night." And he started doing that. And
so dark means, to people that don't know, dark means that the club isn't running on
the lights is out. It's literally dark. Ain't nothing happening. It's closed.
It's not open, right? And if for some clubs, their lease requires that they have staff on, so you might go in there and they might be playing the TV on the screen or some bullshit.
Well, anyway, his wife Mary Ellen said, "Well, you're gonna get out of this comedy shit. I mean, blah 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 blah." And well, he didn't, and he came out to LA and he was sleeping in his car, and his car was parked in somebody's garage. Dave Letterman lived in, he had a lean-to.
A lean-to.
You know what a lean-to is?
Break it down.
It's you put a stick in the ground and you put a covering over that and you lay up underneath that.
So it's like a half a tent.
A half a tent, ain't even a half a tent. It's like a piece of tent.
Did he really? You lying?
Yeah. He had a truck though. He had a pickup truck.
Oh, okay.
He had an old beat up pickup truck. Tom, that's one thing. The old guy, Tom and Jay Leno. Well, Jay Leno used to do driveaways. He was driving somebody's car to another destination, and he was driving a Rolls Royce.
Oh, wow.
And you're talking about being entrepreneurial. He pulled the Rolls Royce over and went in and talked to some guy about a gig.
You mentioned all those people, right?
Yeah.
All those people, right before I came, I would say maybe 10 years before I showed up, all y'all got together and forced the idea of being paid for spots. People don't understand this. Is like, you get paid if you're on the road, if you're marqueable. That means if you are the opener, rarely, the middler, and the headline. But the little incidences, you're just doing time. The local guys usually just doing time. If the guy wants to give you gas money, that's a local thing. But the Comedy Store, they weren't paying before you guys actually did a strike.
Yeah.
There.
Oh yeah, and that's how the Federation of Comedians was formed, the first comics union. Tom Dreesen was opening for Sammy Davis before he started opening for Frank Sinatra. Jay Leno, they would go to Las Vegas and they were making like 10 grand a week. And they come down to the Comedy Store and they had the original room that was in the front and then the main room in the back. And the place was crowded. And they're going, shit, I'm doing the same thing that I do here for free. I'm doing this over here and getting 10 grand. And so that's when they started talking about it. That's when the germ was ignited. But we got to figure out how to, we got to make some money out of it. We're bringing money in the room. So we need to be putting some money in our pockets. That was the idea that mainly Dreesen and Leno started talking about it because they was working Vegas. And then that germinated into a Comedy Store strike. Because when they started talking to Missy about it, she wasn't, this is a college. This is a school.
Yeah.
And like everybody's like, no.
Yeah, you ain't serving school drinks.
Selling drinks. And the most expensive drink that you sell in here only costs 40 cents to pour.
That's right.
It only costs you 40 cents to pour this drink that you're making $4 or $5 off of.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing. But yeah. And then a lot of the older comics, like Bob Hope, they gave advice and support. They wouldn't cross the picket line. They wouldn't come in there. And the Teamsters wouldn't cross our picket line.
Oh, wow. That's good.
That was the backbreaker right there, because without the Teamsters, you don't get tablecloths, matchbooks, drinks, nothing that comes on the trunk will you get. And the Teamsters would not cross our picket line. And I don't care what you say about the Teamsters, I never, ever would cross a Teamster picket line.
Yeah.
And I was invited to. Oh, yeah, Bradley, we're so glad you're going to be with us to Universal Studios, but we need you to come around the back because there's an altercation, a little gathering. I said, what's going on? Well, there's the team that she couldn't even get the M out of. She said the T. What?
What?
Nope. Sorry, nope. I ain't that hungry.
Yeah,
I'll cross the Teamsters picket line. Not after what they did for us, because we would not have won that.
Yeah,
without them doing that.
Yeah. The thing is that started something. The Laugh Factory, which opened up later on, had to do it. The Improv had to do it. This is where they came up with the regular system. They had another Improv that was out in Santa Monica. And now this is the bifurcation for brothers, what I call above Wilshire and below Wilshire. So the above Wilshire comedy rooms are actually comedy clubs. That was the Hollywood. Those were the Hollywood scenes. And when I was coming up, it was the pinnacle at that time because of the generational cross. At the time, Richard Pryor was still alive and doing comedy when I was starting. So there was Wayans, then you had Eddie Murphy who would drop in. Then you just had this Robert Townsend, and then our crew was coming along too. And one of the things that saved the comedy club was started up with Joe Torre up in the belly room when he started hosting Def Jam.
Now, you
his
said-
management needed him to have a room so he could work and have his stuff together. So he was doing a Def Jam. He was hosting Def Jam. And then his brother took it over
Yeah, God.
because Joe went to go shoot him. And his brother started Fat Tuesdays.
Mm-hmm.
And then it got so big.
Yeah, that's y'all's generation. I'm glad to hear about the details of that, because I knew of it, but I didn't know the real mechanics of it. So
Yeah, it got so big that it moved down into the main room.
Mhm.
And the reason why it's important to understand it is that was our generation coming of age when you're in that area, that advertising area, and you know about these things, about spending a lot of money. And one of my managers told me a lot of stuff. I had one of those managers who was an old cat. I had two managers in my life. One is not worth mentioning. The other one, I came along in his life. He had just
a white one you can mention.
That dude, he was a trip, man. He had just finished his book. We did a handshake deal.
Mm-hmm.
And for him, handshake deals were real. I got some money off of that.
Yeah, I work with a brother named Bernie Young, and our handshake deal was real.
Yeah. People were tripped to think about that, but this guy was worth, I think it was worth, at the time, he was worth about somewhere around 80 or 90 million. So there wasn't no reason for him to, but he had just finished his memoir. And so he needed
You keep your $2. You go ahead. I know you want to give me something, but you hold on to that.
That's pretty much it.
Here you go, kid. No. You take the 50,000. Don't worry about it. Don't worry. I buy that in weed.
I'm fine. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
He told me a lot of shit because, like I said, he needed fresh ears. That's what I got video.
There's the blanket. We back to the blanket.
Hey, come over.
Yeah.
Come on, I want to talk to you about something. All right, sorry.
It'd be 2 hours, and we ain't mentioned comedy or my career or nothing.
So I'm on the bed with her.
You said something very important, and I never put it in those terms for myself, but it's certainly true of my career and coming up. And that is, we're entrepreneurial.
Yes.
We understand right away we're in a business.
Yep.
Because we got to go in, we got to talk to business people just to get up on stage for free.
That's right.
It's Your World is one of the things that I did entrepreneurially.
So It's Your World was a throwback. Before there was television, they used to have these serial shows on radio. The television format up until recently was based on those radio serial shows. The genius of what you did was you took a format that you were used to as a kid, as probably a toddler, really, and then you introduced it to a new group of people. And then you gave us an opportunity to come on there and do our thing. And what it did for a lot of us, first of all, it was a cold reading class for a lot of us. And I took
definitely,
because you would come up, you guys would have
cold reading, except we're working.
But everybody in there was so good, at their characters and what they knew their characters, they knew what they were doing. I just did a reading with Buddy Lewis and a couple of the cats that and it was 17 or actually close to 20 people. Most of us didn't know each other. They were throwing out roles, and you hear people kind of flipping through the pages trying to get some kind of gist of what and it's kind of, hectic. You usually give like 5 minutes or 10 minutes for people to read these. You have outlined the character real quick, a couple lines, and then this is a brutish cop, from New York. And then you just have them so they can go through and get some kind of sense. We didn't need that. You had a team, and everybody was a quarterback, everybody was a linebacker, everybody came in, and then you dropped the scripts on us. Yes, we had to read them. I didn't, after a while, for me, I never wanted to waste time more reading stuff over than telling jokes. I would rather waste your time and your money, us in there fucking around, than I would.
Me being a comedian since July 6th, 1969, I understood that.
Right.
And I was with it. I was having the ball.
We been there fucking up, just having a good, but I didn't want to spend all my time reading, but it was cool. I mean, you guys were really patient with me. I really appreciated that too, because my approach to all these things kind of was scrambled. And sometimes, especially like when I would do auditions for Warner Brothers or different things, and I'd get gigs, it was so boxed in. and you kind of want to blast out and do, but you're dealing with people. It's their time, it's their money, they're directing it. And you're trying to explain to them, I kind of know what I'm doing. Let me go. And they're like, no, we doom. And that's when even entrepreneurially, like you and I have talked about, I started doing my own cartoons and my own stuff because, but you guys were so patient because I was all over the place. And
we took each other aside. It was Myra J., Brad Sanders, Jetta Jones, and Mary Boyce.
Those are all the writers
and the
producer of the show.
And we huddled in the back room and we says, listen, he's been to the Royal Academy. Shakespeare, handle him gently through the night.
I mean, you go off every now and then. I mean, goddamn, man, come on. Come on, man. Say the fucking line. Shit, get out.
Buddy Lewis cannot say Notary Republic. Notary
Republic.
Notary 17, 18, 27. Notary. Notary. Buddy. And he's not here to defend himself. So
I would take people who I was like, yeah, man, I want you to come back. I'd go in the hall and work with them. I ain't lying with you. It was Rodney Perry, Joey Wells. I go in the hallway. I said, okay, read this. Nah, man. Read it. Try it a little bit like this. Just be a little. I would tell them. I ain't lying to you. I would go in the hallway. So when they come in.
I see you back there.
Yeah. So I would,
down at home where y'all would hang out.
Yeah.
When your role wasn't up, y'all go back there and hang out, which was a very cool thing to do.
Yeah.
And I saw you back there schooling and coaching and whatever. Yeah. That's what comedians do. Man, if you took this line and drop this phrase right here.
Right.
Kick that word out. You got one word too many in that joke. And that's how we do.
The only time it didn't work at It's Your World, the only time it didn't work was when I brought my best friend up there. You actually asked him to come up. I didn't bring him up there. William Wilson. Now, William Wilson has a voice in any other capacity. He tells jokes and he's very good at it.
Yeah. But
he has a voice that really would work really well on radio. It's smoky, it's husky. Yeah, man, goddamn, this shit is crazy, man. These people, that's where he talks. So he gets up there.
Well, he's my next door neighbor. I had to tell him. I mean, you saw me sneaking off somewhere every Wednesday night.
Right. So you're like, just run it off. So he you give him, he has 2 pages of dialogue with other people. So it's just lines. Everybody, we used to do them in a circle. So we could actually look at the other actors and actually kind of emote sometimes and get the thing. But sometimes you wouldn't see everybody because you're worried about your lines, especially if you haven't been there. You don't want to lose the page or whatever. So 3 people do their lines and I'm playing Sterling and somebody goes, I'm just making this up. So we have to go to the store. Another guy says, yeah, we got to go to the store. And then Sterling says, I don't want to go to the store. And then my man has to come in and say his lines. And then he says, I tell you, he talks like this. Yeah, man, goddamn. So you're expecting that. He goes, well, Sterling, I don't want to go to the store. And everything stopped. Every fucking and motherfuckers was people were holding their scripts and they were looking and you were in the back and you could see you in it. We were still on Cahuenga, so the room was much smaller. Right. And we could see you started, well, that's not on the page. And then you press the button. Look here, man. And he never came back.
But he was welcome to because he's talented and funny. But if you don't do that thing, it's hard to get used to it. But we had kids that came in there and adapted right away to it.
Yeah. Somebody would come in there early when you guys would drop the scripts off. Part of the messing around was actually what I call babbling, playing around with the words and the character before you get on in there. It looks like we're just bullshitting, but you're kind of trying to feel your way. I played 4 steady characters on that show. And then other nights you'd have me do drop-ins and stuff like that. And it's just, you're out there fucking around. Okay, what do you want him to sound like? What do you want him to be? And you're just doing this thing in your head. And then you articulate it. And then you go on there and try. And then you'll either say, okay, yeah, or you'll be like, nah. That's the,
I remember that one of the writers brought in their paramour of the week
Okay.
and they wanted them to play this part.
Mhm.
And I said, I said, okay, we'll find something else for you. You know,
Mhm.
Brandon, you play Sterling.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah,
I remember that.
you
Yeah.
play Sterling because you have to. This guy is sinister and evil.
Right. Right.
And he's got all kind of facets to him. Sinister and evil was where I was starting, and the other guy just didn't have that in his bag. He didn't have he
Right.
didn't have that in his personality. So
Right.
it was never going to be right.
Mhm. Mhm.
So what I call my superpower is recognizing talent in other people
Mm.
and seeing what they can possibly do and giving them a shot at it. And I didn't know anything about your theater background, but I knew you could, you know, it's something instinctive that performers understand about each other. And
Yeah.
man, you killed it. You played like 3 different characters.
Over the years, I don't know how many that we ended up playing. Like I said, there was a core group where we played different, and you tried to do your best to make sure that we weren't playing all the characters of a show, because you start sounding alike. Even though you think you're the man of 1,000 voices, ain't nobody that good. But I used to do characters in my stand-up,
Mhm.
so the vocalization wasn't that hard for me. And as a matter of fact, going back to the stand-up, I used to do this thing called gibberish,
Yeah, okay.
and I stopped doing it around those years.
That was an acting exercise.
Yeah, but I used to do it in Spanish when I was talking about Latinos.
Oh yeah, and then you felt guilty about it.
I'm gonna tell you when I stopped doing it. I did this room out in New York.
Mm.
It's called the Boston Comedy Club, and it was hosted by this guy named Talent in New York. And there was another comic out here, producer, who hooked up, and I got a spot. It's one of those places where you couldn't just walk in, and that's where Dave Chappelle came out of. This place called the Boston Comedy Club. And so I go out there.
You brilliant guy.
And yeah. And I go out there, and Talent asked me before I go on. He says, I'm gonna bring this another comic on stage. It's a trip. New York, small room. It was a living room. And they had actually a ceiling fan, a home ceiling fan up there. It was hot. And they had actually like stadium seating, but it was small. But there's about 200 people in there.
Oh.
So I go on there, maybe about 100 people, but it's packed. So I go in there. Brad is one of the greatest sets I had. One of the greatest sets I ever had.
Really?
Oh yeah. I blew that motherfucker apart. First I talked about the ceiling fan because it was old and it was dusty and it looked like that motherfucker gonna come down and decapitate me. And I said, they ain't gonna, if something happens to me, y'all have to take a picture of me right now because they don't have no insurance in this motherfucker. They're gonna drop me off.
Well, he came in there. He didn't have a head when he came in here. What?
Exactly. So what are you talking about? Eyes. So it was a great set, and I did this thing. Gold. I used to do this thing talking about.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I used to do that shit.
You're a stupid man. You're stupid.
Right. So I'm standing outside. Steaming, dude. I'm like, this shit it was a great set. Like, whew. And I'm waiting for props. Ain't nobody walked out yet because it's not over. But I'm sitting on, you kind of like cooling off.
Lingering.
I'm really okay. Let me get a. I'm really a comic. Let me just hang out here. Look around, see if anybody notices me. If anybody comes outside, see the greatness that I just laid upon them.
Yeah.
This beautiful sister. Beautiful. Now, you know me.
Oh, I know you.
She said, I said beautiful. I mean beautiful.
Oh,
she walks up to me. She's 5'8", has these heels on, 5'10". She's wearing a beautiful, tight afro. Just stunning from the top down. And I barely, I don't even say nothing because I'm like, well, yeah.
Yeah.
So she walks up to me and she says, so do you speak Spanish? Do you really speak Spanish? And I'm like, no.
Ooh, I think I know where this is going.
She says, I said, no, that's just a technique. She says, oh, so you're not from Dominican Republic or anything like that? Or Puerto Rico? And I said, no. And then in Spanish, she said something.
Ooh.
And I'm like, yeah, I don't understand. She says, I know you don't understand. She says, but I want to tell you something. I swear to you, this is on the street outside the club. She says, with your color and those thin lips, you certainly look like you from there. If you're going to talk about Spanish people, Black Spanish people, then maybe you should learn the language. Because you look, and then she turned, and I was like, well, that's fucked up, you know. I didn't say that because she was gorgeous.
Words of wisdom or not
Dig it.
is this category. What advice were you given that helped you in your career as a stand-up? For me, I had just killed at Marla's Memory Lane or something like that.
Marla's Memory Lane was a we used to have a lot of rooms, not clubs. That's what I was trying to make the distinction between above Wilshire and below Wilshire. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we had rooms. We had Miss Wiss and
right
and Five Torches and
right.
You know, Mr. Woodley's.
Right.
That's where I would work.
That's right. The Boulevard Cafe.
You couldn't get no spot at the Comedy Store, but I had room. The Parisian Room.
With
right there. De Milo. That was her night. Phil Wilkes had a night. That kind of thing. Anyway.
Yeah.
I had a really good set, and this man was in there. He was about Jesus. He little short guy with a hat on and everything, and he had his 2 or 3 sons with him. And he walked over to me, and all his sons were way taller than him. But he walked over to me. He says, "You were great, but always keep humility in it." And I kept that. You know, and that has helped me. So, what advice would you say you were given that helped you in your career? Besides learn Spanish, you fucking moron.
That's when I stopped doing gibberish.
Yeah. That's
when I stopped. Yeah, it forced me.
She gave you some game, and you probably kept you from getting your ass kicked somewhere.
Yeah, New York. I'm sitting
right.
Me and my little sunny California bullshit, and they're like,
you're in New York.
There, whoop your ass, right? You ain't in that tribe, motherfucker. You trying to act all cool and shit about it. You know, I used to do this thing. And it's part of my blanket where I look down. I used to keep a matchstick in my I don't even remember that, but I used to have a matchstick that I used to keep
between your fingers.
Yeah, I used to keep a matchstick and I would chew on it. And that was
I never paid close attention to that, but I remember it.
Yeah. So that was my blanket, and 2 people. This is so funny. 2 people gave me a great game on how you approach when you approach your jokes. You need to watch your shit. If you're recording you need to watch your shit and pay attention.
And I hate doing that.
I know it's the worst. It is the worst.
I hate it.
It is absolutely worst. But here's what happened. This came from a producer early on. Yeah. But most of the time, I'm smaller now, but most of the time I was doing stand-up. I was actually I was a bit more fit. I was
buff.
Was buff. Yeah, I was benching like 360, 375. I was, and
when you benching 360, 375, you can say out loud that you were buffed. You don't have to whisper on the mic for that one. We're gonna give you that one.
But yeah, early on when I first started hitting the road, you do the road. I was never a road comic where I was 24/7. I would do road gigs in the summer.
Okay.
You know, I'd go out because we had runs. It was different than what you guys came up. We actually had runs. Comedy was so popular that we could go do like army bases. There was like promoters that did these little runs. You could do like 6 clubs and then get home. So we had that. We didn't really have booking agents that way, like you guys used to have. So there was a run you go up and do. That's how I did the thing in New York. You go up to New York and you can start in Maine and then do like parts of a couple clubs in New England, get down into South Carolina or North Carolina, do a base out there, do a couple of DC joints, come back. You would do Florida, Georgia. Yeah. So I did a couple of those. And producer told me once, he said, you need to watch yourself because not all the jokes you do fit because you a big motherfucker. There's some things that you're saying and you don't really, this is back then. And you're like, well, that's a funny joke.
Like Buddy Lewis, he got to be careful not to intimidate the audience.
That's one, I'm telling you, that was the DNA of that moment that producer told me went right over to me telling Buddy Lewis that because he did this joke about rape in jail and he's standing at the edge of the table. Buddy Lewis is 6'4",
5'6", 6'4".
Yeah. And he's leaning over and casting his shadow on the first 3 rows of the goddamn. And you sitting there talking about rape. And there's a guy who maybe was been traumatized, and he's looking at you like, it's gonna happen again. It's gonna. No.
If I don't laugh, are you gonna rape me?
Not again. So I had to tell him, I was like, dude, there's some shit you just gotta let it go. You can't be doing jokes about fighting with your wife, like physically fight. You can't, because people can picture it. I'm sorry, you have that look.
No, you look like you probably beat the shit out of your wife every night, and we know, and I know personally that she was kicking your ass.
That's right, we know she was kicking his ass. And the other vice,
no, you can't have second helpings. No,
the other vice,
I said no.
The other advice I got was actually one of the dopest things that Bernie ever said. Jesus Christ, if I can get you to lift your fucking head.
Yeah. You used to do that. You used to glower.
Right. I'd come up with character.
You had your big ass shoulders and your little head down and all up down, and you got no neck. And
no neck. It'd be all back. All this back. This is showing. All that is back showing. So I'd have this. I'd do the joke. And then I'd be like, yeah, dig that. And I would stay down here and do some other shit, and then come up in character and then go back down. If I could just get you to lift your fucking head, we'd make $1 million. Just lift your fucking head. They want to see your fucking face. They didn't come here to see the top of your head. Do we want to make a mask to put on the top of your fucking head?
Say the guy's whole name. This is a famous guy in the business.
Bernie Brillstein. His name was Bernie Brillstein.
Thank you.
But it's funny if you don't know who he is.
Negro didn't have a Brillstein in their corner. I just want to say that.
Can I tell you how I got him how he became my manager? Did I tell you that story?
Well, tell them. I don't know. I don't know if you told me or not.
Entrepreneurial, just like you said. Yeah. They had a night. There was a black night at the Improv on Melrose.
Now, Mooney started a black night at the Sunset Comedy Store.
Yes, he did.
So this is similar to that?
No, what Mooney did was...
No, his was Mammy's. It was nigger night on Sunday. I remember now. Guy Torrey was so successful. Remember, Mooney used to close. Yeah.
And Guy Torrey's Fat Tuesdays was hugely successful. And it was a black night. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm calling them that because it was black promoted. Anybody could come, but it was mostly black people. And Mooney, I think, decided he wanted to do his own thing. He called it the Cotton Club.
Mm-hmm.
He called it Cotton Club, and not that many people, because it was a generational thing. It wasn't that he wasn't funny. It was just our generation was out. It was time that we were spending money and bullshit. So they had one of those nights at the Improv on Melrose, and the Improv had a theater next to it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a comedy club. I mean, the comedy club and the theater was like a workout space. And then in the basement of the theater, they had this comedy traffic school. I don't know if you remember that shit.
Oh,
if you got a ticket,
I never got there. I never went to it, but I remember. I really don't remember that very much about that one.
If you got a ticket in LA at that time, you could work off the ticket, and your insurance wouldn't go up. You paid a fine, and as long as you went to traffic school.
Yeah, now that much I did do.
So they would hire
the comic.
They would hire a couple of the regulars, and they would sit down there and they would take them through the whole thing about the comedy. They just had to follow some book. They had
to go through the rules, but they put the comedy on it. Was that how
Supposedly.
was that the premise? I
mean, they weren't getting the top people to run the comedy school. The top people were on stage. They were getting, So
that's like this club on Vine. It's a little hole in the wall club on Vine. You had to wait for the CA meeting to be over before the show started.
Ain't that something? That CA was what?
Cocaine Anonymous.
Was it cocaine so they had a Cocaine Anonymous, or did they have a
Cocaine Anonymous meeting? They did the whole 12 steps, baby. It was the 12 steps. And they shut the meeting down, and then the comedies come up.
Mike, it's your turn. I got nothing to say, really, be honest with you, man. I've just been walking around just doing my thing, trying to get up in here. And I'm finally here, and I'm going to be around all you people again, because last week we were together. Mike
go ahead with your story. I'm sorry.
I was selling furniture, different partly unique stuff, antique sewing machines and stuff. I had been doing that for a minute, but also I did all kinds of computer stuff too. So I took my money, and I knew I said, this was our generation. So everybody's coming up at the same time. And I know you guys went through this too, where you were coming up and there was the gangsters and the smugs and the thug-a-lugs. We were coming up with actors trying to struggle, and then there was porn stars, and everybody was the same age. So we were, and so some of the people that I knew were assistants to some big names in Hollywood. So instead of sending their office something, I knew these women and I approached them individually, and I was like, yo, I'm doing this joint. If you like it, maybe you can send one of the reps to come down.
A comedy gigolo.
There are stories of us, yourself and myself, out there. And I'm not going to say that they didn't happen. I'm not going to say they did. I'm just going to say this. They're always going to say some shit about you. That's all I say.
Now.
If I tell you some bullshit lie, you're going to have somebody else on here and be like, hell no. Brandon was with this chick in the hallway of this haunted house and nobody. But anyway, I knew 5 of them. And a friend of mine knew some other people from his office. And I knew one of the women in the office. And I said, you guys come. And I booked 2 nights. And with Will, actually. And I had a band then too. And
you had a killer band.
I had a band. They were so good, Bradley. In all of them, there are, I think now, 6 Grammys and 2 Oscars.
Damn, 2 Oscars?
2 Oscars, yep.
Man, you had some killers.
Kamasi Washington, the Graves brothers.
Kamasi, man, it's just, I mean, I hear his name all over the place, and I live in Georgia.
Yeah, the Bruner brothers. Yep. The guy named
used to walk around with a trumpet.
I did. I thought it was funny. I thought it was funny, and then someone told me that's not funny. Can you play it? No, then you're not funny.
Is he gonna blow it? I don't know, but maybe later. Just to recap for the audience, because we've taken many digressions here. He was talking about how he met Bernie Brillstein.
Right.
Yeah.
And Bernie Brillstein, if you don't know, he was one of the greatest managers in comedy history. And he managed many people that started Saturday Night Live and other people who went on to become very famous in their own right in many different ways. And he built this thing called Brillstein Gray, which was a force of nature in television. They produced many shows, and Brad Gray went on to run, I think, Paramount or something like that. So one night I do the show, and it does very well. They all go back and tell their people, and instead of like the middle management people coming, the top people show up.
Oh. Whoa.
And one of them was Bernie Brillstein, and he said, "You got something.
I just want to tell you, guy. I don't know what the fuck." He's like, Jesus Christ, where you been? Where the fuck have you been?
He hasn't, he didn't come below Wilshire. He didn't know nothing about that shit.
No.
So, and then the next day, he had me come to his office and shit. And then I met everybody. I used to do crazy shit though. I think you helped me a couple times. I used to shoot these shorts. Mm-hmm. I was trying to get a show. Yeah. And I tried to explain to him, because I was into computers and stuff. I wasn't just into computers. One of my hustles for eating was I would get movies. I wouldn't do it, but I get movies and put them on people's phones. Back then in the day, you could have movies on your phones. But the thing is that he used to talk shit about me because you couldn't just take your phone in and show somebody. I would shoot these shorts and then I'd edit them. Yeah. And then I'd take my computer. I had a Macintosh computer and the monitor and the disc into his office. And then I'd play the shorts, and he's like, "What the fuck, man? You're bringing all this shit in here? What are you doing? What are you doing to me? No, really. Are you gonna fucking blow this place up? Are you gonna fucking?" I said, "Just look, man." And then I was telling him, I said, "Look, I'm shooting it in this style, in this way, because sooner or later we're gonna start watching everything on our phones." And he just didn't. It wasn't that he didn't believe me.
He couldn't perceive it, man.
No.
He could, because you were one of the early geniuses. I can't even go into the stuff you knew back then and predicted it.
Yeah.
This is what's going to be happening. Listen, I got a beef jerky. I think that's what I have for dinner. And he was telling me all this shit. I wish I had listened to your ass.
Well, I was rambling then like I'm rambling now. I was a nerd, a blurred. So I was into that. I was putting movies on people's phones then. So I understood it. And also adult films and people, they would watch it. And I knew the habits were going to eventually get into the wider spectrum. So it wasn't like I was this super prognosticator. It was just in the tech that I was in, I could see it. But I was shooting for that. He got me 3 deals. The first deal from HBO, I went and bought my goddamn camera. That's the first thing I did. I went out and bought a Canon XL1 and immediately began to shoot. That was a trip too. That negotiating was a motherfucker because I never see nobody just give money across the table like that.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah, that was some wild shit. But yeah, the other side of this is the idea of ambition, I think, is really important. And you're not going to find people who are twisted up more with ambition and confidence, but insecurities, all at the same levels than comics. We all have it. We're very ambitious. We have bravado, but then there's so many insecurities wrapped all in one. And you see it in the bigger names. You see it all the time. They forget. They forget.
But I think we all have it. All people. And they express it in different ways. The comedians get on stage and they allow you to see them butt naked behind that microphone.
That's very funny because when I did it, they took me to jail. Anyway.
Was that you?
Well, the third time, not the fourth.
Well, I know you look familiar, especially as you were scuffling about.
Well, in 1964, it was just a different time, different story.
Let's get man. We could see this is the thing about being a comedian. We talk, we kick the game around. We can chop it up like this all night.
You're right.
Because we've got years and years of practice.
That's right.
And Brandon, thank you so much for launching this thing. It's just wonderful to kick it with you. And that's just a special thing. And this has been This Comedy Life.